I'm gonna regret this. In ARK, taming dinosaurs is supposed to make your life easier. I decided to ignore centuries of human progress and walk everywhere instead. For this entire ARK Lost Colony playthrough, I am not allowed to ride a single tame. Not once. Need resources? Walking. Need to cross the map? I'm walking. Need to escape a giga? Running. This sounded like a good idea for about a few seconds. So over the course of this video, I'll attempt to go from beach bop to beating a sociopath without ever riding a tame. I looked around and scratched my arm for the 1257th time and got introduced to a cyberpunk voice explaining to me how to play this game. Girl please, I got the hours. Then I saw a pool and decided to go for a little swim. Even though it was cold outside. Then it was finally time to press E a couple times on this bush so that I could finally gear up. Then I demolished a couple more leaves until it was time to 1v1 a tree. It was a close call, but then I finally had enough resources to make a pickaxe. The tree never stood a chance against my wrath. Then I decided to punch random stuff in hopes of it being a rock. But no luck until I found this crystal. And a plant bear that creeped the fiber out of me. Then I walked around the perimeter for security purposes. Then I geared up even more. Then it was finally time to place a foundation to call home with an upgrade bench. Since I can ride any dinos for this challenge, I thought it would be a great idea to introduce myself to the imbue and upgrade bench mod. Just to make this challenge a little less terrifying. After briefly upgrading my pants, it was time to murder some wildlife. After unaliving the moth shops and burrowing his skin, I came across this. So I assaulted his mother, but then his father showed up and he was not happy. So the battle for custody had begun. When the father left to get some milk, I saw the opportunity to slay Dimitri's mother and adopt baby Dimitri. Then together Dimitri and I took down the father when he came back after a decade. And Dimitri ate him. But when Dimitri and I got home, this happened. I tried leading Mother Teresa away from Dimitri, but that did not work out as planned. I got decimated. So after scratching my arm for the 1258th time, it was time for round 2. As I recovered my loot, tragedy struck. No, Dimitri. So instead of returning home, I went on a search for metal instead, because I was ready to start a war for revenge on Mother Teresa. After about 10 minutes of striding through Winter Wonderland, I finally found the treasure. It seemed too good to be true, and I was right. Right before I finished the first metal rock, Miss Piggy decided she wanted me for lunch. So I ran. After a few minutes of cardio, I caught this degenerate stuck between a few ice rocks. So it was time to end this imbecile. And I had single-handedly slain this beast. But then the tables turned when I got stuck in between Korg and a few ice rocks. This alligator wanted my leg for chicken, but I fought back like my life depended on it. He died. But then this guy and his gang came. I thought I was done. Until I came up with an escape plan. Right as I demolished Korg, the raptor had found a way to get to me. Meaning I was just in time to break free. But the raptor was faster than me, so my only hope was to fight back. I did have a bit of a brain fart fighting this thing, but I managed to come out on top, so I kept running. Right when I thought it was over, the last member of the raptor gang wanted revenge for his dead brothers. So I ran so far away, until I saw this cliff. Then out of all creatures, this guy attacked me, but I dodged him, because I'm a pro. But then Darth Raptor had found me again, and he came at me with murderous intent. I was stuck, but I broke free. At this point, fighting back was not an option, so I had to run. I saw that cliff right on time, or at least I thought. I had accidentally brought myself to the abyss. So, I woke up for the 1259th time. This was no time to give up, so I got back into the grind by weaving leaves together to not be naked. Then I obliterated even more flora to make my drip even stronger, and while I was busy, I saw my life flash before my eyes once again. But I didn't care, because my mortal enemy was more interested in other wildlife. So I demolished some trees and rocks until my pickaxe broke. While I was repairing my pickaxe, I noticed a cool red beam in the sky. I was curious and terrified at the same time. So my plan was to upgrade my stone hatchet, out of all weapons. Yeah, the first thing I did after my axe was evolved was a bit sad. Oh, that's Dimitri. I harvested my only friend. Then I decided I wanted to look like a wizard. And it was time to go on an adventure. But when I saw Bokido, I was totally off guard. So I was gonna make a new friend. It took quite a while before Bokido's appetite came back, so I waited in the freezing snow. When he was accepting gifts again, I did not waste a second. We were now best buddies. And immediately we took down Bugtopia of flies together. Did you feel that, Bokido? Only best buddies actually do lowlifes together. I tried to make him attack Dimitri's cousin, but he only started to throw punches after I got hit. Bokido is Drew Miyagido's student that doesn't strike first. Although it was a stone hatchet, I managed to deal a whopping 200 damage on Dimitri's other cousin over there. I didn't even need Bokido's help. Then I found more metal and Bokido was happily watching as I was bestowing destruction on his natural habitat. It was time to go home. On the way home I was assaulted once again, but me and my monkey took great joy in taking care of it. Isn't he cute? Then I finally got home and it was time to ascend to Metal Gear. And oh yeah, one of the thieves wanted to be my buddy. I upgraded my shoes. They are important if I wanted to walk long distances. But I needed more height, so it was time to decimate a Parasaur and some family members of Dimitri. I'm starting to think they blame me for what happened to him. But to keep upgrading my gear, I was in desperate need of fiber, so it was time to invest some metal into a sickle. And boy, was that a good investment. I was just on time finishing up my gear because Darth Raptor wanted a round 2. So Paquito was kind enough to grant him his wishes. It was time to get some more metal because that pike could be upgraded as well. And that is something my heart was desiring. After farming all this metal, I found this waterfall and it was pretty deep. And of course I had to jump. ARK physics are amazing, aren't they? After my peaceful walk on the ice beach, I was assaulted by Darth Raptor's brothers. But I showed them who's the boss, so I continued my walk. At this point I was starting to wonder why I had made that jump. Because I was lost. Until I saw a lost puppy. I really wanted to tame this fella. Because they're pretty strong. They could hopefully help me take down an outpost. But he started running and I lost him. Where did he go? When I was in my search of the lost puppy, I came across his family and they were pissed. Of course I fought back and that might have been a grave mistake. Or not, because I knocked one out with a sleepy arrow. I pumped them full with my meat as fast as I could, because I knew there were more dogs and I was gonna be their happy meal. At this point, it was a legendary battle between a human and 3 hungry beasts. I tried circling them and jump shotting in hopes of taming more, but my greed was my weakness as I got stuck inside nothing. And the puppies had sent me to an early grave. I became depressed at this point and I wanted my loot back, but I miscalculated my waterfall jump and got eaten by another animal. For attempt 2 I was getting closer and my hopes were sky high, but my dog died. And soon after I perished. I had accepted my losses and also decided that wizards aren't cool anymore, so I became a gladiator. Wizards die. Then the unthinkable happened. Mother Teresa was ready for more. She ruthlessly murdered Dimitri, so I was angry and ready to fight back. And also I had Bokido with me, and he absolutely obliterated Mother Teresa. So I harvested her plantliness and adopted her only child. I named the child Mother Teresa in memory of its mother. Then we practiced some aggravated assault together as a team and it felt unstoppable. Not long after I found a tech trike, but my sightseeing trip was quickly interrupted by Mother Teresa's husband. I tried to run, but he just jumped on me, so I had no choice but to fight back. At one point I even got stuck inside the bastard. I could see his intestines, but it didn't take very long until he was no longer with us. I couldn't stand his child having to grow up without a father, so I adopted him and raised him as my own, naming him Father Terrence. Terrence and I discovered a new species. A shiny Terrazino. I have the shiny dinos mod installed because who doesn't want a chance to find shinies? After a bit of contemplation I decided I was gonna make a trap on the spot and tame him. But my only taming method was a slingshot and a whole lot of rocks. When the trap was finished, it was finally time to lure it in there. But he had mysteriously vanished. As I turned back, I found him eating my plant bear, so I showed him who's boss. And of course, he didn't like that, so he wanted me for dinner, which was his dumb call. He walked right in my... Yo, he got like 5 knockback, dude. He walked out of the trap. He was smarter than I thought. But with a little of effort, he was now trapped again. Stupid. It only cost me my shoes. Anyways, it is finally time to knock him out. No, no. He got deleted. At least I skinned him for more drip. Then I decided that 1 foundation wasn't enough and I needed an upgrade. I was short of exactly 1 stone foundation. Back to the grind. There we go. And this is the result of some hard labor, simple but effective. Not long after finishing the house, I found another contestant of the Terrazino land. So I set up a new trap and I had some better preparation, of course. So I shot him in the neck and I gave him a crash out. I didn't know it yet at the time, but this giant peacock and I were about to become BFFs. I named him Garen. As I commanded Garen to commit his first crime, I discovered that this dude actually farms berries when he fights, which was an absolute game changer. So we decided to commit a couple more war crimes. Now I had a fiber and a berry farmer, meaning my hands never had to touch a bush ever again. With all the narco berries he was able to get from me, I could make a total of 78 narcotics. When I finished cooking up some drugs, it was time to get revenge for an incident that happened earlier. So I found a pack of bloodthirsty wolves and saber kittens to add to my death squad. So like a pro, I immobilized the degenerates and started yanking some arrows inside them to knock them out. But more animals showed up, but I decided they were gonna be my friend too. Unfortunately, I had to unalive a few because I had used all of my 17 bolas. But that was okay. I had to delete one of the babies because he was a low level. I don't normally murder children. But my pack had been tamed and of course I had to practice some gang violence. Yo, this tech track is like a landmark by now. It was finally time to make my way towards the red beam I saw earlier. And I took Garen and my best wolf with me for protection. I felt pretty solid. But I had no idea what this journey was gonna be like. So I made my way down and not long after I was in the middle of World War III. So I pulled a Garen and Wallace to protect me. But even though Garen and Wallace were fighting for my life, so were the elephants. They were not gonna let me get away, so I had to take cover and watch. And this tree did the job. I got to watch the fight and I truly felt like I was in Jurassic Park. The run and hide part, of course. But then the behemoths had found me, so it was finally time for me to fight back. We decimated the elephants. Wallace the Wolf was on life support at this point, so I shoved 83 Happy Meals down his throat. As I continued my mission, I came across baby Cornelius, and I wanted him. So I fought the UT with my bare hands because Garen would probably accidentally kill baby Cornelius, so I was very nervous. But I had nothing to fear as it turned out to be a pretty easy fight. Now it was a matter of slaying the mother. And so baby Cornelius had become my child. I decided to test out his combat skills against the Paracer. Cornelius went full send and it was looking pretty good at first, until the Paracer neighbor showed up. I unleashed Garen, but I forgot he was on passive for whatever reason, and Cornelius got decimated. That dude lived shorter than a housefly. Then I was being molested by this alligator who clearly didn't have any respect for personal space. He paid the price. Then Garen and Wallace the Wolf took care of an angry Paracer, and I was watching with a bucket of popcorn. When I had finally gotten closer to what looked like a giant bridge, these two caffeine junkies decided it was time for my doom. But my heart was filled with desire, as these are one of the best PvP flyers in the game, or at least they used to be before they got nerfed. So without hesitation I started injecting sleeping pills into their systems. I didn't have any strategy here, I was just shooting and hoping they would go to sleep. And to my surprise, it was actually working. They both have entered the dreaming realm, and not long after, they were mine. My food was starting to slowly run out, and both my guardians were running low on health. So I had to turn back and make a new plan. And my new plan was to make a wingsuit and grappling hook. And of course on my way back I had to run into some trouble. And there was another elephant waiting for me. Now these guys are strong, and I already had to take down a bunch of them. I was strong, but not that strong. And Wallace had paid the price. Let's all just take a moment to remember Wallace. Of course, this guy had to ruin my 1 minute of silence. Where are your manners, my dude? After a cruel walk, I realized my way back wasn't the same as how I got there. There was a dead end and I was lost. But that was okay because there was water. So I jumped and I immediately regretted that decision. No, 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 no. I threw out Garen to distract the monster, and I knew there was a good chance that I was gonna lose my BFF. But I also wanted to live, so I made the choice to sacrifice my best friend for myself. Or so I thought. Garen was actually holding his own against the Alpha Carno. But he was very low, so I didn't put all my money on Garen. Garen had put up a surprisingly good fight, but he perished. But I was alive, and that's what mattered. What I did was a true villain act back there. I mean, sacrificing my best friend? I probably shouldn't do that again for moral reasons. So it was time to make my way back home. I was finally back home, so it was time to execute my plan of the grapples and the wingsuit. But wingsuits actually cost blue gems, which I don't have, and I have no idea how to get them on Lost Colony, and I was too lazy to do a 10-second Google search. So the 67 grappling hooks were gonna change my life on their own. It was time to go on a hopefully more successful mission. It was still a very long way up, and since I'm a noob in grappling, I had used a lot of grappling hooks, and they are expensive things. So I had to make my way down and admire this colossal structure from below. When I was down there, I realized I could just take a mountain passage to go up instead of going full dragonborn rock climbing, so I decided to take the peaceful route. Then I found Theodothyla, so I put him to sleep and fed him an entire elephant. I waited a bit and realized I was very far from home. Then Theodothyla joined the gang and we continued our journey. When I got down on the other side of the mountain, I made a new discovery. That, my dear friends, is an outpost. And I was determined to overthrow this monstrosity. But I realized I was very far from home once again. So I made a reckless choice. I started knocking out every single creature that was gonna help me bring down downtown. Then I decided I might as well just build a new base. After this house was labored together, it was time for the gang to be terrorists. I sadly picked a pretty ambitious fight and lost some weaklings. But my gang emerged victorious nonetheless. To erase downtown from existence, I was gonna need an army. So I was satisfied with these low-level mammoths and they started to reproduce faster than an ant colony. As the first of many was born, pun intended, he was a menace. I was caught between his murder spikes and I don't think he ever planned to let me go. After upgrading my gear and mass breeding Manny and Ellie, I was finally ready to put downtown to the ground. So I marched, I uncryoed my sleeping army, and then it was time. When I saw a generator, I had an opportunity to take down the turrets and they were doing a lot of damage. So I bet my entire life on this strategy. I made my way to the generator and successfully destroyed it. And then I entered the spectral state. After losing my entire army and my gear, I rage quitted. But there was no time to waste, so I got back into action. I had realized that downtown was no joke, so I had to put the jokes aside and gear up once again. The town filled with imbeciles did not know what was gonna hit them. I made them a promise, and I intend to keep it. So I set out looking for Rexes, but instead I found this nice surprise. Ooh, a level 80. That'll do. But then there was something even better waiting for me. Ooh, I gotta tame that one. I failed to name this guy, but he was part of the family now. Of course, I had to run into some trouble on my way back home. Classic elephants. They don't know any better. It was time to breed a new army. And no, I don't think 12 will be enough. I was gonna go for at least 30 of them. So, I had some work to do. After breeding a couple of terror chickens, I decided it was time to take them for a walk and wreak havoc on all my neighbors. I got very confident, so I sent my horde of 3 terrorists into an Alpha Carno and the 7-nation army of bisons. But that's when it started to get a bit tense. Oh, they're taking a lot of damage. But the bison death squad was taking more until they all gave out and the big Betty that ate Garen was the last man standing. At the end of the day, the big red Betty did not even stand a chance against my reign of terror. Then one of my terrorists decided to tickle an elephant without my permission and he paid the price. Fine, what's 17 more years? I can always make another. So I continued with 2/3 of my terror battalion and found yet another prehistoric demon. So by teamwork we took down the degenerate. What a loser. When I was on my way home, I found something fascinating. It was my own carcass, meaning downtown had mysteriously vanished off the face of the earth. They must have been scared of my promise. But downtown was only the first step because I had bigger conquest related plans in mind. Talk about foreshadow. I wanted to properly prepare this time for the Cyberpunk Fortress, so I came up with the idea to make some better firearms than this depressed Glock that has been in my pocket for like 3 days, so I was gonna need a fabricator. Then I came up with an idea, since not long ago there are vehicles in the game, and since they aren't tames, I can use them. First, I wanted to make myself a 4-wheeled ride, but it was a bit expensive. Yeah, no way. Then I found something else very interesting. A Zeppelin. And it wasn't that expensive to make, but polymer was a bit of a problem. I looked around for a couple of penguins, but I didn't find any. I had to get polymer the hard way. Remember the struggles before you discovered that organic polymer can be used as actual polymer? Well, I'm right back in the good old days. And for that I needed cementing paste and obsidian. So Garen Jr. and I went on an expedition to decapitate some animals and harvest their keratin. After a 10-minute hunt I ended up with only 600 keratin. So this was gonna take a while. Also I found this level 140 rhino, he was gonna be part of the team. And so I headed back to my cabin in the fields and stood there AFK for like 20 minutes. Moving on, I found out that downtown had re-emerged from the shadows. But it seemed kinda silent, so I had to check it out. I got shot in the process. But I live. While I was on a rhino hunt, I found this guy, but there only seemed to be one. So sad. Then I started making a lot of polymer, but it wasn't enough. And I needed to do something with the time that was given to me while I was waiting on my not enough polymer. I came up with the crazy idea to invite Downtown for a rematch. So I took all of my theories and went full send. The saddles really did some major damage reduction on my family, so me and my gang were able to do a lot more. Even me, on my bare feet, I managed to take down a turret. It finally looked like downtown was sent back to the shadow it came from. Until this happened. An Alcidon had appeared and he was rolling a few of my murder chickens and then he got me as well. Yo, what's going on here? Then I managed to get free, but he got me again. Bro, stop! But not long after he was sent to the afterlife. Then I got the key and went to the vault, and the vault popped out some loot and Steve. Bro just committed mutiny against his own people. Then I did a bit of fumbling around with Steve. Wait, what? Anyway, I was able to mind control this guy. Does it make me like Vecna? After successfully getting my revenge for Manfred's family, I had to make the remaining polymer needed for my blimp. So, back to it. After molesting a whole economy of rhinos and rocks, I finally had enough materials to start my Lost Colony Airlines company. Then I realized there was another problem. If I wanted to fly this thing, I was gonna need a lot of oil to make more gasoline. So it was time for an adventure. Then there was another problem. My flying pirate ship had a top speed of exactly 4 miles per hour. Oh, this is gonna take a while. After a 36-hour flight, I landed on top of a mountain in hopes to find oil. But the mission was unsuccessful. But I had a plan B. Plan B was to fly over to the bridge that I heavily admired from below a few days ago and hope for the best. For the people that don't know, Extinction was filled with lampposts. So I did the math and estimated a 50% chance of them being on that bridge. So it was time for another long flight. Passengers, this is your captain speaking. We are now preparing to land on what looks like the Black Gate from Lord of the Rings. There's no one on board. I might be schizo. As I landed, I went straight for a lantern and it was disappointing. It didn't give me any oil. But electronics and element dust were fine to me. So I stripped the entire bridge of its light source for like an hour, making the Black Gate even darker. Until I came a bit too close. Oh crap. At first I thought it was a great idea to fight back, but after reconsideration, I ran. I was ready to throw it all away by jumping off the bridge, but then I decided that would definitely end up with me going to the afterlife, so I continued to run. As I was about halfway there was only one dude on a raptor, so I killed him. Then I had to run again because his colleague wanted revenge. Sadly, my newly tamed microraptor sacrificed himself to save me. He will be remembered. Then I got away on my blimp, proceeding to make another 36-hour flight. During the flight, I actually started to search for oil spots on Google. So a new mission came to be. I set out to the rivers close to Mordor because the tutorial guy promised me oil. There better be some. And guess what? I found oil. Then I disobeyed the laws of physics. Did I just ascend? Continuing, there was more oil to farm. The curious side of me decided to take a look into the lower part of the city and was greeted by these two sociopaths. They pulled out their rights. Hey, that's not fair. They had no respect for my challenge whatsoever, so Garen Jr. took care of those criminals. Then I headed back to base and committed a holocaust on baby tickle chickens. I set up a new breeding pair to make a better army. They had 2 health mutations. It was now time for a rematch with Downtown. It was actually a pretty easy fight since I kinda knew what I was doing, but it's only a gamma outpost, meaning it was supposed to be easy. I could only imagine what an alpha outpost would be like. I was probably gonna need some Ostodons or Rexes for those shenanigans, but we stood victorious on the mass grave of inferiors, and the loot was much better than last time. I even got a tech blueprint, and Arnold. Arnold was absolutely massive and a very high level, so I leveled him in speed and weight so he could be my metal runner, making metal farming a bit more efficient for me because I wanted to build a forge, which I was gonna need because I had some plans in mind revolving around my blimp. Of course I had to test Arnold a little, so for metal I completely ran into the wrong direction. Also, I don't think there's a limit to how far you can go in mind control, which was pretty OP since that basically means I have a spare body. Oh, that was a scary jump. I just discovered something crazy. They don't seem to want to eat me, so that got me thinking, can I just walk into new Las Vegas like this? It was something that I had to try. Arnold and I hopped onto the Flying Dutchman. Yes, that's what I named my ship since it flies and I'm a Dutch guy. That was a perfect landing spot right in front of the gate. Another happy landing. Now it was time to test this crazy theory. She just spoke Sims language. Did she try to flirt? Anyway, I think it works. I'm like the ultimate spy now. And a lot of you probably knew this, but please, it's my first time playing this DLC. I found this portal looking thing, so I stepped on it and I think I just ascended to the afterlife because I'm pretty sure MJ was moonwalking. Anyway, after my first step into the city, I thought I was done living, but as it turned out, it was just a wild Rex. I was totally fine. I was just exploring new Las Vegas and there it was, an Ostodon. Then I did what any reasonable human being would do, I destroyed a million lampposts. And they were totally fine with that. Oh, so society, am I right? When I was on my little sightseeing holiday, I stumbled on some dudes decapitating a Rex. But this Rex had a baby, a level 120. Oh, come here. I adopted him, but I wasn't sure if the locals were gonna be happy about this, so I wanted to make a cryopod. But Arnold the Neanderthal was unable to craft anything. He was incapable. So we had to sneak out together. I did not exactly know where we were, but then I knew. It still didn't seem to bother them. We got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. No. The Rex was deceased and eaten by his inferior friend. It was a tragedy. I wanted to go home and cry. So I did. When I got back home, I may or may not have just spent all my life savings of metal and polymer on a garage and made myself a car in the hopes of it being faster than a blimp. And it was. Oh my days. I was faster than Lightning McQueen. Imagine what metal farming would be like. I'm so fast. I was having so much fun until I decided to try a flip reset. Well, that didn't work out as planned. I was now upside down. Then my home was invaded by bisons. I'm really starting to hate them. They actually messed up my car. Anyway, I did kind of feel like Ghost Rider. Then I saw an Alpha Tech Trike. I think I forgot to disable this mod, but that's okay. Anyway, I went for it with a few berries and decimated the poor thing. The loot was incredible though. I saw this green thing and decided to give it a try as well. It was just an orbital supply drop and successfully secured it. Now that I've completed an outpost and a box of stuff, I only had to do an outpost defense. It was like a tower defense minigame, so I had to get ready for it. But I had other plans. I wanted to test a theory. Since some time had passed, I wanted to see if that part of the town was a Rex spawn point. My theory was correct. And this was indeed a Rex spawn point. But now the question is, how am I gonna get back now? On the way back, I actually figured out that I could harvest the living statues if I was quick enough before they come to life. I got blue gems, which was gonna change everything about this entire playthrough. I made myself an extra pair of mechanical limbs. Since I now had gems, there was also room for other things. My base just keeps getting molested by degenerates, so I really wanted to relocate myself. They actually bullied me out of my own house. The streets are theirs now and I have my peace with it. See, that's what I'm talking about. There are carnos in my literal backyard. Oh wait, that one was 150. I knocked one out instead of committing murder. Then I saw sparkles around this megatherium and I realized it was actually a shiny. He was pretty angry at first, but when I got close to knocking him out, he started to unleash his inner Michael Jackson. What did I just witness? At least my Megatherium will be popular at parties, right? But if I wanted to build on cliffs, it was fungal wood that I needed. So while I made some more ammo for my little friend, I did a Google search. Apparently fungal wood was rumored to be found in the second worst place on this map. So I went for something else instead. Did I just get scammed? The tutorial guide promised me beaver dams, but I found penguins instead, which was good because I needed polymer. Anyway, I was already quite disappointed, so I might as well just go to the second worst place on Earth. The Upside Down ARK edition. I chopped down some funny looking trees and went right back. I now had enough to make 2 platforms. So the first foundation has been made, but before I was gonna allow myself to move in, I had to make an industrial forge. Then I took a few berries to take out this enraged mammoth, which gave me a few black pearls. Right after that, I flawlessly did another outpost. I got deleted. Well, almost flawless. Then I met Theodora. She was a huge woman, even bigger than Arnold. The outpost actually gave me 20 megapines, so I am now able to tame a Dinotherium, which I also wanted to breed because they are ridiculously strong and they would help me with harder outposts. But I was still short of some cementing paste and polymer, so I wanted to try something. I was gonna tame a Dinotherium, and the way you do it is kinda twisted. To start things off, you need to murder his family. Then in his grief, you feed him a mega pint of alcohol. This is manipulation level 1000. It is wrong in so many ways, but I was gonna do it anyway. I located my target, and he seemed to only have a grand total of one friend, so I murdered him. Then he wasn't very happy about it. I looked around a bit, and in the distance he had another friend, so I tried to trick shot him. I'm a failure. But I set up his appointment with the judge. Then my target still didn't want my beverage, and I thought maybe my companion was the problem. Sorry, you gotta go, buddy. I think it's working now. I successfully brainwashed a gentle giant. Now the time has come to move to my platform base. Also, I tamed a few penguins, but I forgot to record. I'm so sorry. But now I can make a polymer farm, which would be most efficient with a chainsaw. But I gotta continue building my empire. Well, I think this will work. Now that I have my polymer farm all set up, it still wasn't enough for my chemistry bench. So it's time to kill more rhinos. You wanna see the fun part of having a high base? I can get used to this. Okay, you guys ready? Watch this. On my Rhino Massacre, I actually ended up inside the Upside Down, where I took my chance and played some Black Ops Zombies. Just like the old days. Then I was cornered by a lot of freaks, so I ran. But there was also this man. I wanted to end him, but I was kinda scared. So I tried circling and it worked. He turned out to be just a big wimp. So I found this alpha loot crate and I wanted to give it a try. I deployed my army of Terrys and Cornelius Jr. It's his first battle. I think this will do, right? I initiated the battle and so it begins. This would have been so cool if there was rain. The first wave was done, but it was hard. I already knew that this was gonna be no joke. Then I took a quick nap in the afterlife. When I returned to grab my loot, I perished once more, so I had to wait 5 whole minutes. Someone better do something to those bangers, because they're starting an economy. I came back to the battle as Theodora. I actually cleared the second round, so I thought, how bad can the last round be? Well, I did not prepare for this. My entire army was deleted, but I got my stuff back, so that's good. I really need to make a better army. I was incredibly demotivated by this. I can't even take you down now. So I went to look for wild Rexes or Ocidons, if there are any. That is a goon. And a baby gloon. I want that thing, man. It was tricky because I was gonna have to take out the cast of The Walking Dead, but the gloon did something funny to me. I got mesmerized, but I killed it and adopted the baby. It's got a beam which I wanted to test. It's terrible damage, but I can imagine a high level can do some good damage. Then I continued to look for a Rex. I found a very average Spino and I named him Robert. But then I finally found a Rex. But it was a low level and I was very far from base. I had been flying for over an hour and still nothing. I was starting to lose hope. I was starting to question why I started this challenge in the first place. I couldn't find anything good to help me progress further. But I kept flying because I still had a speck of hope. But nothing. I was genuinely thinking about quitting the challenge. I've come so far, but I truly don't know what to do. If I can't even beat an alpha outpost, how am I ever gonna beat the boss? As I was on yet another rhino hunt. Yeah, that was a daily thing now. I could not believe what I found. Oh my days. I still had a lot of eggs left from my previous army, but this one had much better stats. So I was gonna try again. I'm gonna rebuild my army of tickled chickens and I will absolutely clap an alpha stuff box. And so it was mating season. I felt kinda bad for the penguins, so I set them free. I had enough polymer for the rest of this playthrough, I think. It was just metal and cementing paste that I needed to farm on an hourly basis. I'm running around with Arnold about 25% of the time. I wish I could just grab an RG and fly to the metal spots. Instead, I chose to make it one big hiking trip. If I wanted to execute my plans for the blimp, I was gonna need a lot of charcoal. So I headed back to my old house. Hello, Steve. I robbed Steve from all of his charcoal. Then I did some base chores and actually managed to upgrade about 19 saddles for the Theory army. My last army only had 4 of these saddles. Now they all do. Oh my days, this is actually gonna work. I had the idea with my blimp to beef it up and make it a real pirate airship. It may be slow, but this blimp is not messing around. This mammoth's about to get some. This man just got obliterated. I actually wanted to make it a 2-story warship, so I did some more tweaking. I think this will do what it's supposed to do once it's finished. I need to make some more, but I'm gonna need more metal and electronics. Name a better place than this. Turns out that the heroic Microraptor was not dead after all. Let's make a battleship, shall we? That'll do. There are pros and cons to having a bombastic airship like this. Pros, everything in your way gets obliterated. And the cons, everything in your way gets obliterated. So if I find a long lost 150 Rex, he is doomed. The option of taming is no more. Now it's time to put some degenerates in their place. Now this was an alpha outpost, which I didn't know at the time, but I found out soon enough. As I sent my Tickle army into battle, I was getting molested by a dude riding something bigger than a raptor. Hey yo, what is that? Then I knew that these guys were not messing around. It was time to deploy my death ship. I don't think they stand a chance.
You have more thralls heading this way.
Hey, how did that happen? Yo, hey, stop it. Stop it. I knew I needed to make a landing so my Tickle army could take the trash out of my boat, but then this happened. I worked so hard for this. But the murdering Dutchman wasn't needed after all. The boss was a big strong man with a flamethrower. But he got cooked generally fast. I lost 1 or 2 soldiers during the battle, but they will be remembered. Also, what was half my army doing over there? They were just chilling while the rest of us bled for success. Because I'm gonna carry the boats after all. Jokes aside, I actually took down an alpha outpost on foot. I never thought I would come this far in this challenge, but it wasn't over yet. There was a lot that still needed to be done. But first, let's take a moment to remember the trusty blimp. He carried me through half this run and he died a hero. I don't think I'll make another one. It is too much work to later on be blown to pieces like that. Anyway, there was work to do, so I handcrafted my new car with my top tier mechanic skills. And then I took my sleeping army because we had a mission to do. But first, I pumped their health because they had a ton of levels from our last victorious battle. This one actually has over 50k right now. I don't think he's gonna die. Then I drove out to the nearest defense outpost. The icon was green, but the lights of the building are red, so I got a little nervous. Also, I didn't know where to park my car, so I just dropped it off at my old house and said hello to Steve. Hello, Steve. I made my way to the outpost on foot, so I put up some defenses and started the thing. This was a lot more fun than I expected. Also, it was super easy and I got a few sigils, which I was gonna need for the boss fight. I went straight for the next. I was a little nervous where to park the car though. Even in a dinosaur, we can't escape these struggles. I found a good spot though. Now it's time to put all my Bloons experience to the test. Good thing it's only Gamma. This stuff is actually really scary because I can sit on a Rex to protect me. As I was taking a break to make some notes, another tragedy happened. Bro, seriously? Come on. I can't make another one of those without grinding for it. And I really wanted to focus on bringing justice to Mr. Sociopath. So I obliterated another outpost. I just figured out that I need to do 8 more defenses. Well, here we go. I chose not to do any defense yet, since I was gonna have to go around the entire map while I still needed a bunch of crimson tokens as well. So I thought this was a great moment to siege the bridge. That sounded cool in my head. I don't even know why I wrote this down. The battle was about to start and I didn't want to throw out too many chicken tenders because there was no fence on the bridge and I had no faith in them. My mistrust was well placed when the boss showed up and kited them all off the bridge. Well, so much for the chicken tenders. I had to fight these crispy wings on foot and this man was not messing around. I just turned that thing into dinner with my shotgun. Oh my days. Am I finally living up to the hype? Am I worthy now? Maybe I should make a no tame video. Nah, just kidding. This one is already killing me. It is time for a bit more action because I really want to clap Mr. Sociopath. Also, if you made it this far into the video, let me know in the comments. It would actually be amazing if someone is still watching at this point. Also, I just got this random idea that if you subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments, I will let one of you choose an ARK challenge for a future video.
No way.
Enough yapping, let's grind. Are we taking notes, boys? This is important information. I was just out with my glider looking for more outposts and then I found this Ocedon. I really wanted to tame it, so I tried to knock him out, but I soon have found out that's not exactly the way to tame it, so I shot him in the face. Then I found what I've been looking for the entire time. At this point I've been playing for 2 weeks non-stop. And this is the third Rex I've seen. The real trick with taming Rexes is to just circle him if you have 120 speed or higher. I'm just a small bully at this point. He was fast asleep. I named him Louis Armstrong. Then I found another one. It's a low level, but at least I can breed them now. Now I needed to figure out where I was gonna do it. Well, goodbye blimp. There was finally something in the air tonight. A blimp. Well, the blimp's unmatched speed frustrated me anyway, so time to get rid of it. Looks like I'm gonna add exactly 9 Rexes to my army, giving me a total of around 30 good soldiers to take down the city. Also, in this city there are neophytes. I need to kill those as well if I want to enter Mr. Sociopath's room, and I was warned that they would be pretty tough. But also, I didn't want to be spoiled, so I hope I brought enough brute force to give my new Rexes some time to heal. I killed some time with a few outposts. And now I finally had enough aberrant sigils for the boss fight. Now all I needed was the neophyte claws and some crimson sigils, which can both be found in this city. And I was planning to do it all in one run. So I was gonna go into the city and I wasn't gonna return home until Mr. Sociopath was put in his place. When I entered the lost city, I toasted another outpost. I really wanted to avoid the bridge as much as possible, but I got on it anyway because there was no other way. Then I made my way into another part of the city. It's so easy to get lost here, I guess that's why they call it the Lost City. Then I found the terminal. But I didn't know how to get there, until I did. I put my army at the terminal for later. I still needed the neophyte horn. So I went on a foot hunt to find and kill some neophytes. So I ran around a little bit and then this happened.
My special children are on their way to convey my extreme disappointment.
Special child? I wonder what makes him so special. Well, this degenerate definitely knows how to make an entrance. It was a neophyte, basically a beefed up Desmodus. And this man was not messing around, because he was taking almost no damage from my parries. But I had a shotgun, and I locked in. Well, he was decapitated. I now had a grand total of 2 horns and I needed 5. So I waited around for another one to show up and repeat the process. This is too easy. I quickly put the horns in the terminal. I just needed one more. Also, I wonder what makes cursed items so special. I asked my trusty ChatGPT what the difference is between normal and cursed items. Turns out they're just stronger and you can equip more traits and they repair themselves over time. I still didn't know how much stronger they are, so it was something that I wanted to test out. So I went back to my neophyte kill squad and waited around a bit until it came. I knew the drill. Also, this cursed sniper does not deal more damage than my own sniper. Anyway, now I had all the horns I needed, so it was time.
The codex has to be somewhere inside his palace. Let's just hope this lost key
I had
hasn't
finally
been
entered the
wild.
palace and now it's time to go through this. At first I had to go through this courtyard and delete all the creatures while my robot voice friend was unlocking the door for me. Ice elemental bro, his will to live was very strong but not strong enough. Get wrecked fella. Then I went to the next section where I was brutally assaulted by some imbeciles, but they weren't too much of a problem for me. I got hit by a dude with a flamethrower. I cannot take that a second time. I finally made it to Mr. Sociopath and it was time to take him down. But he had no respect for my challenge apparently because he had a giant bat. And I was on foot. How am I ever gonna do this? Oh my days, I'm so nervous. Well, his blast just sent me back to the lobby in one shot. I hope he's ready for round 2, because I am. I need to be really careful not to get hit again. I also had to be really fast, and yeah, I guess I've been fast enough till this point. I'm actually shaking right now because it literally takes one good hit. I gotta lock in. Get wrecked. But then it was the turn of the sociopath's long lost wife, and she was meaning business. My shotgun did a whole bunch of nothing to her, and all my theories were sleeping. So, well, guess what? I was kinda panicking. At least she respected a fair fight. Then the voice in my head showed me a tech spear. So I grabbed it, and this actually turned out to be the coolest boss fight in ARK by far. And there we go. I just did it. I actually beat Last Colony without writing any tames. Oh my days. Subscribe to my channel. Goodbye.